Welcome back to Win the Day. My name's Jacob, and today we'll be looking at the book of 1 Samuel to find what is this all about. We all want to be the main character. We all want the focus and attention on us. We want the desires of our hearts fulfilled. But the Bible shows us that because of sin, we turn away from God and we turn to the desires of our own hearts, which ultimately want us to be king. The desire to worship ourselves rather than God is the heart of pride, which ultimately leads to sin. Unfortunately, Proverbs tells us that pride comes before the fall. And that is the idea that guides the book of 1 Samuel. It all boils down to this: God raises up the humble, and He humbles the proud. When we read the book of 1 Samuel, we're confronted with this question: what or who will we bow to? Who will be our king? This book signals a transition in the history of the nation of Israel from the time of the judges to the time of the prophets and of the kings. It takes place around 1000 BC, and it introduces us to important people like the prophet Samuel, King Saul, and King David. The nation of Israel is God's chosen people, and He calls them through His covenant to be a holy people. Now, holy means to be set apart. So God desires for His people to be set apart and different than all other nations. He wants them to show Him what it looks like to live in relationship with Him. But in 1 Samuel, this nation has rejected God as their king, and they demand a king of this world, as we read in chapter 8, verse 19. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. "No," they said, "we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and to fight our battles." Ironic, isn't it? God is their king, and He's been fighting their battles all along, but they want nothing to do with Him. Studying the first kings of Israel teaches us an important lesson. God raises up the humble, and He humbles the proud. 1 Samuel shows us that even when we act like kings, we can't stop being what we were created to be. God made us to be worshipers. He is the true king, and we're meant to worship Him. So when we try to be king, it leads us into sin and idolatry. Now Saul, the first king, ends up worshiping himself, and he ends up being brought low. While David, the second king, worships God, and he is lifted up. In David's example, we see shadows of King Jesus. For Jesus is the one true king who willingly humbled Himself, submitting to the will of God, even to the point of death on a cross. In doing so, Jesus was raised to life and was rightly placed on His throne above all creation, for He is the King. Just like the nation of Israel and its kings, we have the same options set before us. Will we bow to the one true King, or will we be overcome by pride and end up worshiping ourselves? Let's learn from the book of 1 Samuel and remember that God raises up the humble and He humbles the proud.